In this lesson, you will learn how to work with pattern and why pattern is one of my favorite design vehicles. Pattern crosses over so many mediums. The veining of marble, the movement of many different types of wood, even in tile, you're creating a geometric pattern. It adds so much energy to a room and you can use it in so many different ways. So our new district pattern, which I'm really excited to share with you, is a large scale print. And one of the things that I wanted to show you guys is how a pattern can look so different in two different colorways. This one is more monochromatic, and this one has a little more contrast, but it still is a muted color. When you apply the pattern to different mediums, for example, this slubby linen takes the pattern very differently. So you can see there's a little resist in the color, and here it's a little more painterly. So it depends on how you use your pattern and what you print it on. When we work with color, we actually study many different colorways, and it's a very fun exercise that we do. And these are a lot of the different color studies that we did. We actually landed on about 7 successful colorways that we felt that gave a lot of variety and that people would love to use. So you can see many different colorways and the dynamics. Like for example, this one that has black in it seems it's more contrast, it's a little harder, where this one feels a little softer to the eye. When we're actually developing this, we look at many different scales. This is a study that we did, and it shows how a pattern can change instantly by the scale. I think this is the one we actually went with. This one is a little smaller. It actually turns almost when it gets smaller into a visual texture. And if you stand back, that it actually changes in its density. So when I use a pattern, it's very important that you stand back, pin it on the wall and look, and then take a step back and see, because it feels very different looking at it up close as it does seeing it actually installed. This is one chair, and we applied the pattern in 3 different scales. And you can see what it does to the chair. So for example, this chair feels a little more refined and delicate, and this is less of a statement, as opposed to this larger one that's more of a statement, it's a bigger story, and it's more of the bigger personality in the room. And I think all of these are very successful. It's a personal preference. There are no wrong or right. It's what I felt this collection needed, but all of them I think work equally as well. These are some of the other colorways. So you can see, let me just open all these up, how beautiful and unique these color stories are, and how different the pattern reacts with each of these color stories. And that's why it's important to really experiment. I'm all about experimentation, pushing yourself. Working with something in a large scale like this on a fabric is actually really fun, and it's been a great experience, and I want to keep evolving and doing different new things. I want to share with you an example of a chair silhouette and applying a pattern versus applying a solid color and a variety of different patterns. This is the pattern, the district pattern that you see here. This is the same chair that has a hide, another chair that has a smaller refined pattern. This is the same chair with a jacquard and another one with a stripe. And really how they have now their own individual voice is the same silhouette, it's the same angle, and what a pattern can do to a piece of furniture. Sometimes a chair could look smaller, whereas the white chair, this chair actually looks in scale bigger than this chair. And it's because of the coloration. And it's the same thing with people wearing black clothes. They want to be a little trimmer as opposed to white. Chairs and patterns have good sides and bad sides, just as they look better in certain colorways than other colorways. If you decide that you want to have a really beautiful, bold print that you want to put on a sofa, or you're looking at putting a dynamic rug on the floor, buy a yard of the fabric and test things out and see what works for you or the client. So a project that we were working on in New York was a really unique space. And this project had 3 stories. And we decided that we wanted to put a pattern or some sort of graphic element on the walls to unify the different floors. This is an image of a study of the elevations in 2 different patterns. Because it was a tight staircase, I wanted to evoke a feeling of multi-dimension. We decided that we were going to experiment with a stripe and making it feel like it had a visual texture, but it also had a tactile texture. This is one of the first samples. And this is a great example of that not everything you do turns out great the first go around. This is a sample of a hand-painted trompe l'oeil on a canvas. And it just felt too graphic and strong. It just didn't feel the way we wanted it to. So an idea that I had was to take fabric, a striped fabric. We went and we bought about 10 yards, and we took striped fabric and we actually pinned it on the wall, and we moved some of the pieces so it felt multi-dimensional. And then we took a photo of this, and then we put it in Photoshop. So this is a 2-dimensional pattern that was created from a 3-dimensional study with striped fabric. Now we took the pattern, we Photoshopped into the elevations, and from there we actually studied scale. So this is a much finer scale and a much larger scale. And this is an image of the actual installation from the top floor. And you can see it really looks multi-dimensional. It's very difficult to kind of see the wall, and it just makes the space feel more expansive. So this is a unique condition that deserved a unique story. Actually, all conditions deserve a unique story. This is another project where we experimented with pattern in wood. And this shows that pattern doesn't have to be a fabric, it doesn't have to be a wall covering. This is actually wood. We knew we had to design a bar in this cabinet's home, and this was actually a happy accident. There were a bunch of trays, and again, we gather materials, we put them on our vibe trays, and I looked over and I saw this ribbed walnut in these different scales, and immediately it came to mind that that is actually could be a really cool cabinet door. And so we began exploring some of the different layouts that this could be, and we landed on this diagonal layout of ribbed woods. And you can see the final product not only is it tactilely visual, we're creating this unique pattern as well. When designing, just have an open mind, because this came about in an unexpected way. I saw something in a tray. Having tons of materials around, it's so important. So things happen unexpectedly, and this was a happy accident with a happy ending. Pattern crosses over so many mediums. So it's important to remember you might want a white plaster wall in your living room, but going into your kitchen, you could have something beautiful and dynamic.